by day, I lead inclusion and diversity at an advertising company.
Okay.
But my passion work is men's work, right? Helping men sort of embark on the journey to transformation, to becoming the best version of themselves, a fully embodied version of themselves. And so I launched back in 2017 a platform called The Lives of Men that's dedicated to that, right? So one of our taglines is that we want to be the compass that helps men navigate their life's journey across every aspect of their lives, right? So when we think about who we want to be and how we want to embody that vision of that masculinity, what does that look like in both our personal and professional lives? And so that's the work that I'm dedicated to do.
Why you started that? Like, what made you say, like, all right, this is something that I want to do?
Any work that's transformational like this is usually born out of some trauma. Right. And so I'm sure you can probably relate to it. So, I was experiencing some real heartbreak and challenges in my life back in 2017. And, I decided in that moment to do something different. Right. And it was a breakup. And so, what we're taught to do as men, this is like, oh, you're going through a breakup, just go out there and date, do your thing, and we'll get over it and then you'll be fine.
Yeah.
And that hadn't worked for me, at that point. And so I decided to take a step back and say, like, what do I want to do different for myself? What outcomes do I want that are different? And so I started to journal. I started to meditate more, and really take a different approach to healing that didn't look like what I was being taught. Right. So I started to kind of journal and start to, create this running narrative of what I was experiencing. And I was just sharing it with a friend of mine who said, man, I'm experiencing very similar things. We should put this out. We should package this because, there are other men that are experiencing this and they could probably benefit from it.
Right.
So that was the genesis of it. And then, as the universe happens, it's like you take a leap and then all of a sudden the net appears. Yeah. And so as I started to kind of embark on this conversation, Me Too happens, right? So you take back to the whole Bill Cosby thing and all that. So that happened. And all of a sudden I'm in the middle of a conversation culturally around what does it mean to be a man? What does it mean to be a good man? What does it mean to be a good black man? Right. And so, as I navigated that conversation, the platform just took off.
You talk about heartbreak, but you didn't get too deep into it. Can we get a little deeper? Yeah. So what was going on and at that time, and why was that such a traumatic experience for you?
I think one of the things that when we talk about love and emotions and feelings as black men, what we don't talk about often is that we are, as black men, probably the most sensitive species on the planet. We have big hearts and we love deeply and we feel deeply. And unfortunately that gets masked with, what you tend to see and what mainstream media kind of puts out as, us acting out or being womanizers or being sort of all of the negative aspects of what people know to be men. And so what I wanted to do was something different. And so as I was embarking on that journey, I was realizing, man, like I'm hurt. Yeah. I'm deeply sad right now. And I just didn't have the language in that moment to articulate that.
Right.
So it was like, one, it was feeling these feelings and not knowing how to express them, and needing the help to do that was what helped me then say, all right, I need to go to therapy, right? Like I need help to develop the language to then say to whoever it was, my friends or the people that were supporting me and loving me at the time, to express to them what it was that I was experiencing so that they can then help me.
Yeah.
So that was part of it. And then the other part of it was I didn't realize how much of myself I gave to that relationship. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And when you are, and again, young love, right? Early 20s, you're kind of experiencing all these emotions for the first time. You think that love is about just pouring, right? Just giving yourself. Because that's what we're taught to do as men, right? It's like you have to be a protector. You have to be a provider. You have to give. And we're not taught to receive.
Right.
And I think that value exchange in that relationship was incongruent. I wasn't receiving the nurturing and the type of love and the space to just be me, the fullest expression of who I was, right? Like to be emotive, to be sad sometimes, right? To be imperfect. I wasn't afforded that opportunity in that relationship. And so when I look back at that, I was like, man, that made me really sad.
Yeah.
And it made me feel incomplete. So I was like, man, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to feel like this anymore. So I want to take some time back and say, what do I need to do to give that to myself first and foremost before I look for it in another person?
You're saying a lot of great stuff. These are things that I think a lot of us need to hear. And it's very true. When I talk to men about relationships, this is kind of like, or like breakups, this is kind of like where we go, where it's like, you know, I was doing a lot and I was compromising pieces of myself and then it still wasn't enough, or it was enough, but then I was feeling depleted. Right. I've had that happen where like I'm in a relationship and my partner is happy, but I'm not happy.
Right.
A lot of people talk, like when they're in relationships with men, like they may be happy, but the person, like their guy is probably not, like he probably couldn't be, he probably not happy. Right. So it's like, are you dating now? One. And then also my other question to you, if you are, is like, how are you navigating trying to make sure that you don't fall back into that same like dynamic? Because I think it can be difficult for us as men because there's so much, you know, there's so much language and like there's so many people that's kind of like pressuring us to kind of, you know, assemble or get those roles, or, you know.
And social media is hard. Yeah. Social media is like, don't go on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok for any dating advice, right? Because it's like the culture is the culture of like, the expectation that women, to the extent that we're in heterosexual relationships, right? That the expectation is that women, you have to give, you know, whoever you're dating money every week for their nails and their hair. It's just like, and if you don't do that, you must be a sucker, right? Or a simp, right? So like, I feel like that completely just skews the whole dynamic. But today, I am in a relationship. I'm in a committed relationship. And I think your question was, what have I learned, essentially, right? Like, what am I doing?
How do you not fall back into that?
And how do I not fall back? I think it's just been years, man. Years of, you know, really learning how to love myself. I think that's as purely and as simply as I can state it. It's that, you know, when we are overgiving, and to use an overly used cliche, right? When we're giving from an empty cup, it's like you have no choice but to feel depleted, right? And so I think it's really reorienting that love from being external and sort of kind of from myself to the other person, to say, what would it look like for me to give myself a fraction of that love, right? Just 10% of that. What would it look like? And then really focusing on that.
And how did you do that?
I mean, therapy, right? So it's like, therapy was really helpful because it helped me identify where the holes were, right? And so where the gaps were. And I think that's kind of like, you know, and that goes back to like childhood trauma, like ways that you were abandoned, right? Like a lot of us as men are giving because we're afraid to be left alone, right? And we're afraid of being lonely, which we can get into. I mean, there's the difference between being alone and being lonely, right? But we're afraid of it. And so I think we overcompensate with either, you know, our financial abilities, right? Our ability to produce, our ability to dress a certain way, our ability to like command a room and like show up, our persona and our ego look in a certain way. So I think we tend to overcompensate because of that, because we're giving from this place of emptiness and from a place where we kind of wanted something for ourselves in that moment. So I think it's just learning that. It's just like taking the time to really learn myself, learn what was it that I needed to kind of heal in those moments, and identify those pockets and actively go in there and really like excavate and really do that work. Because again, you can't show up incomplete. Any relationship that you're in is going to be a mirror, is going to surface those areas of your life that you have not addressed. And so I think I just didn't want to experience that anymore. And so it's a daily job, right? It's a labor of love. I wouldn't say that I'm in any way, shape or form fully healed or fully at a point where I don't experience some challenges. But I will say that, you know, coming from that particular breakup, we all have these moments in our lives and relationships that really are fundamental and change us. And so for me, back in 2012, 2014, that's what I experienced. And I was like, I don't want to ever let that affect the rest of my life.
Right. How long were you in that relationship for?
It was like 8-9 years.
Ooh.
On and off.
Yeah.
Some of it was long distance. And I'm talking about like not New York, DC. It was like Europe, New York.
Oh.
You know what I'm saying?
Oh, no.
So it was kind of like that, you know, and this was, you know, not to date myself, but like this was before, you know, this was like, we had FaceTime and things like that, but it wasn't like we have your social media now, you know what I'm saying? So, man, it was a challenge, you know, but I think it was, to put it simply, man, I made a decision to choose myself. before choosing anybody, including members of my family. Like, I needed to put myself first and feed and fill my own cup before I decided to like embark on a journey of trying to love somebody else if I can love myself.
Sometimes I know you feel like you ain't got nobody to speak to. Shoulder to lean on somebody you could preach to. Know you need to hear it, my brother.